The air in the room isn't moving. It hasn't moved since yesterday, and if the brick walls pressing in on all four sides have anything to say about it, it won't move tomorrow either. It hangs heavy and thick, a physical weight resting against your skin, smelling of old timber, coal dust, and the hundreds of other people breathing within a 50-foot radius of where you lie. Outside, the city of New York is humming, a low mechanical vibration of iron wheels on cobblestones and distant steam whistles, but in here, in the dark, the world has shrunk down to the size of a single stifling room. The only light comes from a gas lamp flickering in the hallway 3 flights down, casting long pale shadows that stretch under the gap in your door like fingers. You can feel the roughness of the wool blanket beneath you, scratchy and smelling faintly of lye soap, but it's too hot to pull it up. The humidity here doesn't just exist, it occupies space. It settles into the plaster, into the floorboards, into your lungs. So before you try to find a comfortable spot on this mattress, take a moment. Like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this kind of quiet journey into the past. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from tonight, and what time it is in your part of the world. It is always fascinating to see who is awake with us. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan to create a breeze that history forgot to give you, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1880. The good news, you're alive. The bad news, you're trying to sleep inside a machine designed to extract rent at the cost of oxygen. You are lying in what is technically described as a bedroom, though a more accurate description might be a storage closet for humans. This is the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and you are a resident of the Dumbbell Tenement, an architectural marvel of the Gilded Age that managed to solve the problem of housing people by stacking them like firewood. Your eyes adjust to the gloom. It is 3 a.m, the hour when the city is supposed to be silent, but silence is a luxury you cannot afford. To your left, through the thin partition wall, you can hear the rhythmic, dry cough of the neighbour. It's a cough that sounds like wet gravel, the kind that comes from breathing factory soot for 12 hours a day. To your right, in the main room, you hear the shifting weight of your brother-in-law turning over on the floor. He is sleeping on a rug because the bed is yours for this shift. You try to take a deep breath, but the air fights you. It is warm, soupy, and tastes faintly of boiled cabbage and stagnant water. This is because your room has a window. You should be grateful for the window. The law says every room must have a window. The problem is that your window does not open to the street, nor does it open to a backyard. It opens into an air shaft. The air shaft was the Great Compromise of 1879, a legal requirement intended to bring light and air into the centre of these massive brick blocks. In reality, it is a vertical tunnel of brick, perhaps 25 inches wide, that runs from the roof to the basement. It acts as a perfect echo chamber for every argument, every crying baby, and every dropped pot in the entire building. And instead of fresh air, it funnels the smells from the basement, rotting garbage and backed up drains, straight up into your bedroom. You wipe the sweat from your forehead with the back of your hand. Your skin feels tacky. The heat in a New York tenement in August does not dissipate at night. The bricks absorb the sun all day, baking like clay in a kiln, and then radiate that heat inward while you try to rest. It is arguably hotter inside than it is outside. This is the system. It isn't an accident that you are hot, or that the air is stale, or that you can hear the family upstairs pacing the floorboards. It is a matter of efficiency. The landlord who owns this building does not see a home. He sees a grid of rentable square footage. Every inch of space dedicated to a hallway or a window or a ventilation shaft is an inch that is not generating revenue. So, the hallways are narrow, just wide enough for two people to squeeze past each other if one of them exhales. The ceilings are low, the walls are thin. You shift your legs, trying to find a patch of the sheet that isn't damp. There isn't one. You close your eyes and listen to the building breathe. It groans as it settles, the timber frame creaking under the weight of 400 people. You're tired. Your body aches from a day of hauling crates at the docks or stitching buttonholes in a garment sweatshop. You know you need to sleep. The whistle will blow in 3 hours, but the building is alive and it does not want you to rest. It wants you to participate. You hear the clatter of a tin bucket hitting the floor. Upstairs, you hear a door slam. You hear the low murmur of a conversation in Yiddish or Italian or German drifting up the airshaft, the words indistinguishable but the tone exhausted. This is the reality of the 1880s. The Gilded Age is happening just a few miles north, where the Vanderbilts and the Astors are sleeping in mansions with high ceilings and cross breezes, wrapped in silk that feels like cool water. But down here, you are part of the machinery that makes their world possible. You are the fuel, and fuel does not need comfort. It just needs to be stored until it is needed again. You turn over, facing the wall. The plaster is peeling slightly, little flakes of white dust settling on the pillow. You can smell the dust. It smells dry and old, a sharp contrast to the humid air. You try to focus on that smell, on the texture of the wall against your knuckles, grounding yourself in the room. You tell yourself that you are lucky. You have a roof. You have a bed. You are in America. But as the airshaft delivers a fresh wave of sour air into the room, you realize that the system wasn't built for you to live in. It was built for you to survive in, just barely, so you can pay the rent on Friday. The morning doesn't break in a tenement, it leaks in. It starts not with the sun, which is blocked by the brick wall 5 feet away from your window, but with the sound of the whistles. They scream from the riverfront, from the factories in the garment district, from the shipyards. A chorus of steam-powered authoritarianism telling you that your time no longer belongs to you. You peel yourself off the mattress. Your body feels stiff, shaped by the lumps in the straw tick. The room is grey, filled with the dusty half-light that manages to filter down the airshaft. You are thirsty. Your throat feels coated in the coal dust you inhaled all night. This brings you to the first great logistical hurdle of the day, the quest for water. In the modern world, water is magic. You turn a handle, and it flows, clear and endless. In 1880, water is a negotiation. You grab the tin bucket sitting by the door. It's dented on the side, a veteran of many trips to the hallway. You step out of your apartment and into the corridor. The air here is different than in your room, stagnant in a colder, damper way. It smells of wet wood and boiling laundry. You're heading for the sink. In this building, the landlord has generously provided one sink for every floor. That means 4 apartments, perhaps 20 or 30 people, all sharing a single iron faucet. This is considered a luxury. In the older buildings, the ones built before the reform laws, the water is down in the backyard, requiring a 4-flight trek with a heavy bucket every time you want to wash a spoon. Here, you only have to fight your neighbours. There is already a line. Mrs. O'Malley from the back apartment is there, filling a large basin. You lean against the wall, the plaster cool and crumbly against your shoulder, and wait. The hallway is dim, lit only by the grey daylight coming from the ends of the corridor. You watch the water chugging out of the spigot. It doesn't flow smoothly. It coughs. The pipes rattle inside the walls, a mechanical shudder that vibrates through the floorboards. This is the Croton water system, the pride of New York engineering. It travels miles from upstate reservoirs through massive aqueducts to reach this hallway. And by the time it gets here, it has lost all its enthusiasm. The pressure is low because everyone in the neighbourhood is drawing water at the exact same moment. It spills into Mrs. O'Malley's basin in a thin, erratic stream. You listen to the sound, glug, hiss, splash. It is a slow, rhythmic sound, almost hypnotic if you weren't so thirsty. When it is finally your turn, you step up to the iron sink. It is stained brown with rust and mineral deposits, a map of thousands of gallons that have passed through before. You place your bucket under the tap and twist the handle. The metal is cold and greasy to the touch. The pipes groan, a deep metallic complaint, and then the water comes. It is not clear, at least not at first. It runs brownish-orange for a second, carrying the sediment of the pipes before clearing up. You let it run, wasting a precious pint, before catching the clearer stream. You cup your hands and splash your face. The water is shockingly cold. It smells faintly of iron and earth. It shocks you awake more effectively than the factory whistles ever could. You fill the bucket. It takes time. You watch the water level rise inch by inch. This bucket is your supply. It is your drinking water, your cooking water, your face-washing water. Once it is full, you have to carry it back to your room without spilling, navigating the narrow hallway where children are already running and tripping over loose floorboards. This system, this daily pilgrimage to the hallway sink, dictates the rhythm of your morning. It forces you to interact with the building, to wait your turn, to measure your needs against the weight you can carry. It reminds you that in a city of millions, resources are finite. You haul the bucket back into your room, the wire handle digging a thin red line into your palm. You set it down on the table with a heavy thud. You take a ladle and drink. The water tastes metallic, flat, and absolutely wonderful. You wipe your mouth with the back of your hand. You're awake. You're hydrated. And now you have to figure out how to get dressed in a room that has no space for a human being to stand fully upright. Getting dressed in a tenement apartment is a geometric puzzle. The room you're standing in measures perhaps 10 feet by 12 feet, but it is currently occupied by a table, 3 chairs, a cast-iron stove, a trunk, a pile of fabric scraps for piecework, and 2 other human beings who are also trying to wake up. You reach for your trousers. They are hanging on a nail driven into the doorframe because closets are a concept for the wealthy uptown. The fabric is heavy wool, dark and stiff. It smells of yesterday, a mix of street dust, dried sweat, and the pervasive acrid scent of coal smoke that coats every surface in the city. You pull them on. The texture is rough against your legs, scratching the skin. In the winter, this wool is a lifesaver. In August, it is a personal sauna strapped to your limbs. There is no privacy here. Privacy is a spatial luxury that costs roughly $10 more a month than you can afford. You turn your back to the room to button your shirt, a gesture that counts as solitude in this environment. Your sister is braiding her hair in the corner, using a shard of mirror propped up against a window pane. Your brother-in-law is rolling up his bedding. You move around each other in a practiced dance, a choreography of avoidance. You step left so he can step right. You suck in your breath so she can pass with the kettle. It is a silent, efficient routine born of necessity. If you stopped to apologize every time you bumped elbows, you would never leave the house. Now you must face the stove. The stove is the heart of the home, a black iron beast sitting squat in the corner. It is your cooktop, your heater, and your iron. In the winter, it's the only thing keeping you from freezing. In the summer, it is a curse. To make coffee, you must feed it. You open the heavy iron door with a metallic clank. You shovel in a scoop of coal. The dust rises, black and shimmering in the shaft of light coming from the window. It coats the back of your throat, a taste like sucking on a penny. You strike a match. The sulphur flares, a sharp, biting smell that cuts through the stale air. You toss it in. The fire catches. You can hear the draught roaring up the chimney, a low, hollow sound. Within minutes, the iron plating of the stove begins to radiate heat. The rös, already stifling from the summer night, begins to cook. The temperature climbs 5 degrees, then 10. Sweat prickles on your hairline immediately. You're voluntarily building a fire in a small box in the middle of a heat wave because the alternative is going to work without caffeine, and that is simply not an option. You set the kettle on the burner. The water you fought for in the hallway begins to hiss. Breakfast is a study in brown. Brown bread, slightly stale, bought from the baker cart yesterday. Brown coffee, weak and bitter, boiled in a tin pot. Maybe a smear of lard if it hasn't gone rancid in the heat. You eat standing up, leaning against the window frame, staring out into the air shaft. Across the gap, 10 feet away, you can see your neighbour doing the exact same thing. He is a tailor, an older man with spectacles thick as bottle bottoms. He is drinking from a chipped mug, staring blankly at the brick wall. You do not wave. He does not wave. The airshaft etiquette dictates that you pretend the other person is invisible. To acknowledge them would be to acknowledge that you are both eating breakfast in your underwear in full view of strangers. You chew the bread. It is dense and requires effort. The coffee scalds your tongue, but the heat is grounding. It wakes up your stomach. This is the fuel stop. There is no joy in this meal, no savouring of flavours. It is merely input for the machine. You're loading the boiler of your own body so you can go out and load the boilers of the city. You finish the coffee in 3 large gulps. You wipe the crumbs from your mouth. You grab your cap. The air in the room is now thick with the smell of burning coal and boiling water. It feels heavier than it did when you woke up. You have to get out. You have to get to the street. You open the door to the hallway. The air out there is cooler, but only slightly. You step out, the floorboards groaning under your boots, and begin the descent. The staircase of a tenement building is a world unto itself. It is a vertical street, a spiralling tunnel of wood and iron that connects the crushing poverty of the basement to the slightly less crushing poverty of the top floor. You're on the 4th floor. That means 4 flights down, 80 steps. You start the descent. The banister is polished smooth by thousands of hands, slick with the grease of the city. It feels cool under your palm. The stairs are narrow and steep, pitching forward at an angle that would give a modern safety inspector a heart attack. The treads are worn in the centre, dipped low from the friction of boots, creating a shallow bowl in every step. The darkness here is almost total. The gas jet on the landing has been turned off to save money, so you navigate by muscle memory. Step, creak, step, creak. You can hear the building waking up all around you, doors opening and closing, the heavy thud of work boots, the crying of a baby echoing down the stairwell like it's coming from the bottom of a well. The air changes as you descend. On the 4th floor it smells of cooking fires and stale bedding. By the 3rd floor you catch the scent of boiled onions. By the 2nd floor the smell of the street begins to intrude. Horse manure, wet cobblestones, and the salty, fishy tang of the river. But the first floor, the ground floor, has its own unique atmosphere. It smells of the business that occupies the storefront. Maybe it's a bakery filling the stairwell with the scent of yeast and flour. Maybe it's a butcher, and the air is heavy with the copper smell of blood and sawdust. Or maybe, like in your building, it is a saloon. Even at 6 a.m. the saloon smell lingers. Stale beer, sawdust, and old tobacco smoke. It is a smell that permeates the wood, seeping into the residential hallway. It is the smell of last night's wages evaporating. You reach the bottom. The front door is heavy, a solid slab of oak battered by years of abuse. You push it open. The noise hits you first. Inside, the tenement was a muffled vertical cave. Outside, the street is an explosion. It is 6:15 a.m. and the Lower East Side is screaming. Vendors are already shouting, their voices raw and rhythmic. Hot corn, here's your hot corn. Strawberries, fresh strawberries. Carts rattle over the cobblestones, iron wheels grinding against granite. The sound is a low, constant roar, punctuated by the sharp clop-clop of horses' hooves. And there are people everywhere. You step out onto the stoop and are immediately swallowed by the stream. The sidewalk is not a walkway. It is a marketplace, a playground, and a social club. Women in shawls are haggling over fish in barrels. Men with tools slung over their shoulders are marching toward the factories. Children are weaving through the legs of the adults, playing games with sticks and hoops in the gutter. The sensory overload is total. The light is bright, unfiltered by the air shafts. The air is filled with dust. Dust from the horses, dust from the coal, carts, dust from the fabric scraps shaken out of windows above. You taste the grit on your teeth immediately. You turn right, heading toward the factory. You walk with your head down, moving fast. In this crowd, speed is safety. If you stop, you block the flow. If you block the flow, you get shoved. You pass a row of push carts. The smell of pickle brine hits you. Sharp. Vinegar. Dill. Then the smell of raw herring. Then the smell of unwashed bodies pressed tight together. This is the commute. No trains, no buses. Just your boots on the pavement, walking the 20 blocks to work. Your feet hurt already. The leather of your boots is stiff. The soles thin. You feel every cobblestone. But you keep moving. The whistle blew 15 minutes ago. You have 10 minutes left to get to the gate. If you are late, you are docked. If you're docked, you don't eat meat on Sunday. The equation is simple. You shoulder your way past a dray horse standing patiently by the curb, its breath steaming in the morning air. You step over a pile of refuse in the gutter. You keep your eyes on the horizon of brick buildings ahead. The city is a machine, and you are a cog that needs to be in place by 6:30 sharp. You arrive at the factory gates with 2 minutes to spare. The building is massive, a 6-story block of red brick that looks less like a place of work and more like a fortress designed to keep people in. The windows are tall and narrow, already vibrating from the machinery running inside. You can feel the hum in the pavement through the soles of your boots. You join the stream of bodies funneling through the main entrance. Men, women, children, some no older than 10, all pressing forward. There is no conversation here. The morning chatter of the street dies at the threshold. Inside, the air changes instantly. It becomes hot, dry, and filled with fibres. You're working in a textile mill today, or maybe a box factory, or a cigar rolling shop. It doesn't matter. The system is the same. You punch your time. You find your station. You become the machine. The room is cavernous. Rows of iron looms stretch into the distance, their belts and pulleys spinning in a blur of leather and grease. The noise is a physical assault. Clack thud, clack thud, clack thud. It is a rhythmic, deafening roar that makes thought impossible. You cannot talk to the person next to you. You cannot hear yourself think. You can only watch the shuttle fly back and forth, back and forth. Your job is simple. Watch the threads. If one snaps, tie it. If the bobbin runs out, replace it. Do not let the machine stop. The foreman walks the aisles. He's a man with a pocket watch and a notebook. He does not yell. He doesn't have to. He just watches. If you slow down, he makes a mark. If you fumble a knot, he makes a mark. 3 marks, and you are out. There are 10 men outside the gate waiting for your stool. You stand. You're not allowed to sit. Chairs encourage laziness. The floor is hardwood, slick with oil and cotton dust. Your legs begin to ache within the first hour. Your lower back tightens. The air is the real enemy here. It is filled with fly. Tiny particles of cotton lint that float like snow. You breathe it in. It tickles your nose, coats your throat. You cough, a dry, hacking cough that mirrors the one you heard through the wall last night. This is white lung in the making, though nobody calls it that yet. They just call it the cough. The windows are closed. Ventilation is bad for the thread. Humidity keeps it from snapping. So the room is kept sealed, hot and damp. Steam pipes hiss overhead, adding moisture to the air. Sweat runs down your back, soaking your shirt. You're thirsty, but water breaks are scheduled, not taken at will. Time dissolves. There is no morning or afternoon here. There is only the rhythm of the loom, clack thud. You tie a knot, clack thud. You replace a bobbin. Your fingers move automatically, calloused and stained with oil. You don't look at the clock on the wall because looking makes the hands move slower. You retreat into your mind. You think about the rent. You think about the stew for dinner. You think about the girl you saw on the stoop yesterday. But the machine pulls you back. A thread snaps with a sharp ping. You lunge for it. Your fingers dance among the moving iron gears. This is the danger zone. One slip, one moment of distraction, and the machine will take a finger. Or a hand. You tie the knot. The machine doesn't even stutter. You step back, heart hammering against your ribs. You wipe your hands on your trousers. This is the system of production. It is efficient. It is profitable. It is relentless. It does not care if you are tired. It does not care if you are hungry. It only cares that the cloth keeps moving, and you are just the soft biological component keeping the iron running. At 12 p.m. exactly, the steam whistle screams again. This time the sound is different. It isn't the sharp shriek of the morning summons. It is the low, guttural moan of the dinner whistle. The belts overhead slow their frantic spinning. The floor stops vibrating. The silence that follows is sudden and violent. It rings in your ears, a high-pitched phantom whine that refuses to fade. You do not leave the building. You do not go to a cafeteria with tables and chairs. You simply sit down exactly where you are. You slide down the side of your machine and sit on the oily floor, pulling your knees to your chest. The air is still filled with cotton dust, slowly settling like a microscopic blizzard onto your shoulders, your eyelashes, and now your lunch. You reach for your pail. It is a tin bucket with the lid, dented and scratched. You pop the top. Inside is the rest of the bread from this morning. Perhaps a piece of hard cheese that has sweated in the heat of the factory, and a cold potato. This is the fuel injection phase. You have 30 minutes, not 31. Around you, the factory floor has transformed into a picnic of the exhausted. Men are leaning against pillars. Women are huddled in groups of 3 or 4, sharing a jar of pickles. There is very little talking. Talking takes breath. and breath is a resource you need to conserve. Then doors creak open. A small army of children rushes in. They are not workers, they are runners. They carry tin buckets, growlers. They have run from the saloon across the street, their buckets filled to the brim with beer. This is the rushing the growler system. In 1880, water is suspect, milk spoils, and coffee is expensive. Beer is cheap, it is caloric, and it dulls the ache in your lower back. You pay the boy a copper penny. He hands you a bucket. You take a long pull. The beer is lukewarm and foamy, but it cuts the dust in your throat. It tastes of hops and the metallic tang of the tin pail. For a moment, the room feels almost human. The edge of the anxiety softens. You close your eyes, chewing the rubbery cheese. You try to forget that in 20 minutes the belts will start spinning again, but your body has other needs, and the factory has a system for that too. You need to use the privy. In a modern office, this is a private, unremarkable act. In an 1880s factory, it is a negotiation of dignity. You stand up, your knees cracking, and walk to the foreman. You have to ask permission. He looks at his watch. He nods, but his eyes narrow. He is timing you. The privy is located in a stairwell or a dark corner of the floor. It is a wooden stall, barely wide enough to turn around in. The smell hits you 10 feet away, ammonia and rot, sharp enough to make your eyes water. There is no plumbing here, just a chute or a bucket that is emptied. Eventually, you step inside. The door has gaps in the planks. You can see the factory floor through them. They can see you. Privacy is dangerous. Privacy allows for theft or idleness. So the stall is designed to be as uncomfortable and public as possible to ensure you return to the line immediately. You do what you have to do. You hold your breath. You finish quickly. You step back out, conscious of the foreman's eyes on you as you walk back to your machine. You have used 3 minutes of company time. You sit back down on the floor. You have 5 minutes left. You eat the cold potato. It is mealy and bland, but it fills the hollow space in your stomach. You brush the crumbs from your lap. The whistle blows. It is loud, demanding, and final. The break is over. You stand up. The lethargy hits you now, the heavy, leaden feeling in your limbs that comes after stopping. It is harder to start again than it was to keep going. The belts groan into motion. The floor begins to shake. The noise returns, swallowing the room whole. You step back to the loom. You grab the shuttle. You're not a person anymore. You are a component. And the afternoon shift is always longer than the morning. The afternoon shift is a test of endurance. The sun has moved, and now it beats directly against the factory's west-facing windows. The glass acts like a magnifying lens, superheating the stagnant air inside. The temperature climbs past 95 degrees. The humidity from the steam pipes makes the air feel heavy, like breathing through a wet wool blanket. Your hands are slick with sweat and machine oil. The thread becomes harder to handle. It slips, it snaps. You tie it again. Your fingers are raw. You can feel a blister forming on your thumb, rubbing against the rough wood of the shuttle. Around 3 p.m, the slump hits. This is the danger hour. The beer from lunch has worn off, leaving behind a dull headache and a heavy fatigue. Your eyes burn from the lint. You catch yourself staring at the spinning gears, mesmerized by the motion. It would be so easy to just lean forward, to rest your head against the cool iron frame. A sharp shout snaps you back. The foreman is standing at the end of the row, pointing at a boy 2 machines down. The boy has dropped a bobbin. It rolled under the loom. He is hesitating. "Get it," the foreman barks. His voice is barely audible over the roar, but the intent is clear. The boy, maybe 12 years old, drops to his knees. He crawls under the moving machinery. The iron arms of the loom are piston driving back and forth inches from his head. You hold your breath. You stop working for a second, just to watch. He scrambles back out, clutching the wooden spool, grease streaked across his cheek. He stands up, shaking. He is safe. The foreman nods and walks away. The boy puts the bobbin back on the spindle. He doesn't look at you. He just keeps working. This is the reality of child labour. It isn't just that they work, it's that they do the jobs the adults are too big to do safely. They are the scavengers and the pieces, small enough to fit into the gaps of the machine. And the machine does not distinguish between a bolt of cloth and a human arm. The afternoon drags on. The light in the room changes, shifting from bright white to a golden, dusty haze as the sun begins to set. Shadows lengthen between the rows of machines. And then the gas jets are lit. The factory does not stop when the sun goes down. The days are long, but the quotas are longer. A man with a long pole walks down the aisle, popping the valves on the gas lamps hanging overhead. Pop hiss. Pop hiss. The light they cast is sickly and yellow. It flickers with the vibration of the floor. It casts strange, jumping shadows that make the moving parts of the loom look like thrashing limbs. The gas eats up the remaining oxygen in the room. The air gets thinner, hotter. The smell of sulphur joins the smell of sweat and oil. You're now working in a twilight zone. Your eyes strain to see the fine threads in the dim light. The headache behind your eyes sharpens into a throbbing pulse. You are thirsty again, a deep, parched thirst that makes your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth. You think about the water bucket in the corner. It is warm and covered with a film of cotton dust. You decide to wait. Just another hour, maybe 2. The whistle will blow at 6 p.m., or maybe 7 p.m. It depends on the orders. It depends on the owner. It depends on how much cloth is in the pile. You're trapped in the amber of the factory evening. You're not living. You're waiting for permission to stop. At 7 p.m., the whistle finally screams. It is a harsh, shrieking sound that cuts through the mental fog you've been living in for the last 4 hours. The belts slow. The floor stops shaking. The sudden absence of vibration makes your legs feel weak, like stepping off a boat onto dry land. You do not run for the door. You cannot. Your body is stiff, locked into the shape of the machine you have been tending. You straighten up slowly, hearing your spine crack. You wipe your face with a rag that is now black with grease. You look at your hands. They are stained, the knuckles swollen. You join the shuffle toward the exit. It is a slow, silent procession. No one is laughing. No one is making plans for the evening. The energy has been harvested, leaving only the husk. You step out into the evening air. It is cooler than the factory, but still thick with the humidity of a New York summer. The sky is a bruised purple, the sun having set behind the Jersey Palisades. The streetlights are flickering on, gas lamps casting pools of yellow light on the cobblestones. You are free for 12 hours. But freedom in 1880 has conditions. You have money in your pocket. Your weekly wages were paid today. It is a small stack of coins and bills, heavy with sweat. It feels substantial, but you know the math. Rent is due tomorrow. The grocer needs to be paid. The coal man needs his cut. You walk past a storefront. It is a dry goods store, its window filled with bolts of calico and tins of tea. You stop and look at your reflection in the glass. You see a ghost, face smudged with soot, eyes hollow, cap pulled low. You look older than you are. The factory ages you in dog years. You turn toward home. But first, you have to navigate the evening economy of the street. The sidewalks are crowded again, but the mood has shifted. The frenetic energy of the morning market is gone, replaced by a weary communal relaxation. Men are sitting on stoops, smoking pipes. Women are leaning out of windows, their arms resting on pillows placed on the sills, watching the street like a theatre. You pass a pushcart selling damaged fruit, bruised peaches, soft apples. The vendor calls out softly, knowing his customers are tired. You buy a peach for a penny. It is sweet, warm from the day, and juice runs down your chin. It is the first real flavour you have tasted all day. You keep walking. The sounds of the neighbourhood wash over you. An organ grinder is playing a tune on the corner, a tinny, cheerful melody that feels out of place. A group of boys is playing stickball in the twilight, shouting in a mix of English and Italian. You turn the corner onto your block. The tenement looms ahead, a dark cliff of brick against the darkening sky. It looks sleeping, but you know better. It is just catching its breath before the night shift begins. You step into the hallway. The smell hits you again. Boiled cabbage, old wood, and the damp earth of the cellar. You start the climb, 80 steps up. Your legs protest every inch of the way. You reach your door, you push it open. The room is exactly as you left it, but now it is lit by a kerosene lamp on the table. The light is soft, amber-coloured. Your sister is there, stitching a shirt. Your brother-in-law is asleep on the rug, exhausted from his own shift. You are home. You have survived the machine. Now, you just have to survive the night. Dinner in a tenement is a masterpiece of economy. The goal is to maximize calories while minimizing fuel consumption, cleanup, and the risk of food poisoning. Tonight the menu is stew. Stew is the universal language of poverty. It is forgiving. It accepts whatever you have. A potato that is starting to go soft, in the pot. A carrot that looks more like a tree root, in the pot. A piece of meat that is mostly gristle and bone, absolutely in the pot. Your sister ladles a serving into a bowl. The steam rises, smelling of onions and something savoury. You sit at the table. The chair wobbles. You don't fix it because a wobbling chair is a low-priority problem in a world where the roof might leak. You eat slowly. The stew is hot and thick. It warms you from the inside out, chasing away the factory chill that lingers in your bones despite the summer heat. You dip a piece of bread into the broth. It soaks up the flavour, transforming from stale crust to sustenance. While you eat, you listen. The building is fully awake now. The air shaft is carrying the sounds of 100 dinners. The clink of spoons on tin plates, the low murmur of grace being said. The sudden sharp sound of a slap followed by a child's cry. This is the community. You're separated by brick walls, but you're living a collective life. You know when the neighbour's baby is sick. You know when the couple downstairs is fighting. You know when someone has come home drunk. There is no privacy, but there is no isolation either. If you screamed right now, 20 people would hear you. Whether they would come to help is a different question, but you would be heard. You finish the stew. You wipe the bowl clean with the last of the bread. Nothing is wasted. Now comes the evening's second job, laundry. In 1880, clothes do not clean themselves. They require boiling water, harsh soap, and physical violence. Your sister has already started. A large tin tub sits in the centre of the room, filled with steaming water. The room is humid, the windows fogged over. You take off your work shirt. It is stiff with sweat and starch. You toss it into the pile. She will scrub it against a washboard, a corrugated sheet of metal that eats knuckles. She will wring it out by hand until her wrists ache. Then she will hang it on a line strung across the room, where it will drip onto the floor as you sleep. This is why the tenement always smells of wet wool, because it is always drying. You help her empty the tub. It takes 2 of you to lift it. You carry it to the sink in the hallway and tip the grey, soapy water down the drain. It gurgles, a deep, swallowing sound. Back in the room, you sit on the edge of the bed. You're clean, fed, and tired. The lamp is burning low. Kerosene costs money. It is time to turn it down. But sleep does not come easily. The bed is still warm from the day. The air is still heavy. You lie down, staring at the ceiling. You can see the cracks in the plaster, mapping out continents of water damage. You think about the future. Will you be here in 10 years? Will you be a foreman? Will you move uptown? Or will you still be here, listening to the same pipes rattle, smelling the same cabbage, sleeping in the same air shaft? The thought is heavy. You push it away. You focus on the rhythm of your breath. In, out. You focus on the sounds of the city outside, which never truly stops. And then, slowly, the fatigue takes over. The edges of the room blur. The noise fades. You drift, until the bedbug bites you. The bedbug is not a pest. It is a roommate. It is a permanent resident of the tenement, arguably with more legal rights to the mattress than you have. You feel the sharp prick on your ankle. You do not slap it. Slapping is amateur. Slapping just leaves a blood stain on the sheet, which you will then have to wash. Instead, you reach down with a practiced pinch-like motion. You catch the bug between your thumb and forefinger. It is small, flat, and hard, like a lentil made of malice. You crush it. There is a faint pop, and the smell of something distinctly unpleasant, a mix of cilantro and rot. You wipe your hand on the bed frame. You're now awake. The adrenaline of the hunt has spiked your heart rate. You lie back down, but the spell of sleep is broken. You are hyper-aware of your skin. Is that an itch, or just the rough wool? Is something crawling on your arm? This is the psychological warfare of the tenement. You're never truly at rest because you're never truly alone. The building is an ecosystem, and you're just part of the food chain. Since you are awake, you listen. The city at 2 a.m. has a different texture. The roar of commerce has died down, replaced by specific, isolated sounds. A horse's hooves clopping slowly on the pavement, likely a milk wagon or a night soil cart. The distant whistle of a tugboat on the East River, and then the sound you dread most. Cough, cough, cough. It comes from the other side of the partition wall. It is Mrs. O'Malley's husband. He works in a stone-cutting yard. He breathes granite dust all day. Now at night, his lungs are trying to expel the stone. It is a wet, rattling sound that goes on and on. It sounds painful. It sounds exhausting. You pull the pillow over your head. It smells of damp feathers. It muffles the sound, but you can still feel the vibration of the cough in the wall. You know that cough. It is the sound of consumption, or the white plague. Tuberculosis. In the tenement, TB is not a tragedy. It is a probability. The lack of sunlight, the damp air, the overcrowding. It is a petri dish designed by an architect who hated lungs. You hold your breath instinctively, as if the bacteria can travel through the plaster. Maybe they can. You don't know. Science is a rumour down here. You think about your own cough from the factory floor. It was dry today, just dust. But tomorrow, next week, fear is a cold thing to feel in a hot room. It settles in your stomach. You roll over, facing away from the wall. You try to think of something else, anything else. You think about the Sundays. Picnic. Once a year, the factory holds a picnic. They take everyone on a barge up the Hudson River to a park. There is grass. There are trees. There is air that smells like leaves instead of smoke. It was 4 months ago. You can still remember the colour of the water. You hold on to that image. The green, the blue, the space. Eventually the coughing stops. Silence returns, heavy and expectant. You relax your muscles one by one. Toes, calves, thighs, back. You drift again. This time, deeper. The building breathes with you. The floorboards settle, the pipes gurgle. You sleep. And then, 4 hours later, the whistle screams. The week grinds on. Monday becomes Tuesday. Tuesday becomes Wednesday. The days are indistinguishable, measured not by the sun, but by the pile of finished goods at the end of your assembly line. By Thursday, the fatigue is deep. It isn't just physical tiredness, it's a structural exhaustion. Your bones feel heavy. Your mind feels slow, like moving through molasses. You catch yourself forgetting simple things. Where you put your cap, whether you drank water, what your own name sounds like when spoken aloud. But Thursday is also special. Thursday is laundry day for the whole building. You step into the hallway on your way out and it is transformed. Lines have been strung crisscross from every banister, every doorknob, every nail. The air is thick with the smell of wet cotton and lye soap. It is a maze of white sheets, grey shirts, and woolen socks dripping water onto the floorboards. You duck under a wet sheet. It brushes your face, cold and clammy. You manoeuvre around a bucket. You apologise to a woman scrubbing a pair of trousers on the stairs. She doesn't look up. She just scrubs. Scrub, scrub, scrub. This is the tenement obstacle course. The building was not designed for this. It was designed to store people, not to clean them. There is no drying room. There is no yard big enough for 50 families' laundry. So the hallway becomes the yard. The humidity is incredible. The moisture from the clothes seeps into the wood, causing the doors to swell and stick in their frames. The wallpaper peels in long curling strips, revealing the horsehair plaster beneath. Mould blooms in the corners, black and fuzzy. You reach the street. The air feels dry by comparison, which is saying something because it is raining. A light summer drizzle that turns the dust into slick black mud. You walk to work. Your boots squelch. You keep your head down. Today, the factory is different. There is a tension in the air. You feel it as soon as you step onto the floor. The foreman is pacing faster than usual. He is shouting more. The belts seem to be spinning just a fraction faster. A deadline. The owner has promised a shipment. A big one. Maybe to a department store uptown. Maybe to the army. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the quota has gone up. "Speed it up!" the foreman yells. He claps his hands. The sound is sharp, violent. You speed it up. Your hands move faster. You tie knots without looking. You replace bobbins before they are empty. You don't take a drink. You don't sit down. You don't think. By noon, your shoulders are burning. Your fingers are cramping. The muscles locking up in a spasm that forces you to pry them open against your thigh. And then the accident happens. Not to you, to the girl at the next machine. Her name is Mary. She is 16. She is fast, usually. But today she is tired. She reaches in to clear a jam. She's a second too slow. There is no scream. Just a sharp crunch and a sudden, violent stop of the loom. The silence ripples out from her station. People look up. The foreman is running. You see her face first. She looks surprised. Just surprised. Then she looks at her hand. You look away. You have to. If you look, you will be sick. If you are sick, you will stop working. If you stop working, you will be fired. The foreman shouts for a rag. Someone runs. They wrap her hand. They walk her out. She is pale, shaking, but walking. The foreman returns. He looks at the loom. He pulls a lever. It clatters back to life. "Back to work!" he yells. "Quotas don't wait!" You turn back to your machine. Your heart is hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. You're shaking. You force your hands to steady. You grab the shuttle. You work. Because Mary's machine is now empty, and there are 10 people outside the gate who would take it in a heartbeat. Bloodstain and all. Friday is payday. The anticipation changes the atmosphere of the factory. The exhaustion is still there, heavy as lead, but there is a current of nervous energy running underneath it. You can see it in the way men check their pockets, making sure they are empty and ready. You can hear it in the slightly sharper edge to the foreman's voice. He knows that money makes people independent for about an hour, and independence is dangerous. The whistle blows at 6 p.m. This time, no one shuffles. The line to the office door forms instantly. You wait. The line moves slowly. Inside the office, the paymaster sits behind a wire cage. He's a small man with ink-stained fingers and eyes that don't look at faces, only at hands. When it is your turn, you state your number. 347. He checks a ledger. He counts out the cash. It is a small pile. A few dollar bills, soft and worn. A handful of coins. You take it. You count it immediately right there at the window. If you walk away and it's wrong, it's gone. It's correct. $7.50. This is your life, converted into currency. It represents 60 hours of your time. Thousands of knots tied, millions of threads watched. It feels light in your hand. You put it in your deepest pocket. You keep your hand on it. Walking out of the factory on payday is running a gauntlet. Outside, the ecosystem of the street has shifted to target you. Peddlers are more aggressive. Shoelaces, best quality. Hot sausages. There are men selling miracle tonics that cure everything from baldness to consumption. There are boys selling newspapers, and there are others. Men standing in the shadows of alleyways watching. Pickpockets. Loan sharks collecting debts. You walk fast. You don't make eye contact. You keep your hand in your pocket. Your first stop is not the saloon. It is the landlord's agent. He has an office on the corner, a small room that smells of cigar smoke and intimidation. You're not late. If you're late, there is a fee. If you're a day late, there is an eviction notice. You hand over $4. More than half your week, gone in a second. He scribbles a receipt on a scrap of paper. He doesn't say thank you. He just yells, "Next!" You walk out. You have $3.50 left. Next stop, the grocer. You owe him for the week's credit. Bread, potatoes, coffee, lard. He tallies it up on a slate. $2. You hand it. Over. $1.50 left. This is the math of survival. You have enough for coal. You have enough for the burial club, 10 cents a week because dying is expensive. You have enough for next week's food. You have almost nothing left for you. You stand on the corner. The saloon is across the street. It is glowing with gaslight. You can hear a piano playing. It sounds warm. It sounds happy. A beer is 5 cents. A whiskey is 10. You hesitate. You think about Mary's hand. You think about the dust in your lungs. You think about the heat in your room. You cross the street. The saloon is crowded. It smells of hops, sawdust, and men. It is loud. You shoulder your way to the bar. You put a nickel on the wood. "Beer," you say. The bartender slides a glass toward you. It is cold. You drink it in one long swallow. The bitterness washes away the taste of the factory. The alcohol hits your empty stomach instantly. A warm, numbing wave. You order another. This is not indulgence. This is medication. This is the only way to stop the shaking in your hands. This is the only way to forget that tomorrow is Saturday, and you have to do it all again. You stand there, surrounded by noise, and for the first time all week, you feel quiet inside. Saturday is a half day, which is the factory owner's way of saying you only work 10 hours instead of 12. The mood on the floor is lighter, almost manic. You can feel the weekend pulling at everyone. The machines seem to hum with a different frequency, a faster, more urgent rhythm. Get it done. Get it done. Get it done. But Saturday also brings the cleaners. Around 2 p.m, the machinery is stopped for maintenance. This is not a break for you. This is the most dangerous hour of the week. You're handed a rag and a bucket of kerosene. Your job is to clean the gears. To do this, you have to lean into the machine. You have to put your hands, your arms, sometimes your head, into the spaces where the iron teeth usually gnash. The foreman shouts, "Lock it out." This means putting a wooden block in the main gear to prevent it from turning. It is a primitive safety system. It relies on the block not slipping. It relies on no one else pulling the start lever by mistake. You clean. The smell of kerosene is overpowering. It burns your nose, makes your eyes water. You scrub the grease from the metal. The iron is warm to the touch, like the skin of a living thing. You work fast. The sooner it is clean, the sooner you leave. At 4 p.m, the whistle blows. The week is over. You walk out into the afternoon sun. It feels brighter, yellower than usual. The street is crowded with people doing their weekend shopping. You head to the market. Saturday night is market night. Pushcarts line the avenues for miles, lit by flaring gas torches. It is a festival of commerce. You buy a chicken, a real chicken, not a scrawny bird for stew, but a roaster. It costs 25 cents. It is a splurge. It is a celebration of survival. You buy fresh vegetables, carrots with the dirt still on them, onions that are firm and shiny. You walk home carrying your prizes. The tenement smells different tonight. It smells of roasting meat, of baking bread. It smells of hope. You climb the stairs. You don't count the steps. Inside your room, the atmosphere has shifted. Your sister has scrubbed the floor. The table is set with the good plates, the ones without cracks. You cook. The smell of roasting chicken fills the room, chasing away the cabbage and the mould. Dinner is a feast. You eat until you are full. You talk. You laugh. For an hour you're not a worker. You're a person with a family and a full stomach. After dinner you sit by the window. The air shaft is noisy, but tonight the noise is different. It is social. People are singing, someone is playing a fiddle. You lean out. You can see the glow of other windows, other lives. You wave to the tailor across the way. He waves back. This is the golden hour of the tenement. The time when the crushing weight of the system lifts just enough to let you breathe. You go to bed early, not because you have to, but because you can. You lie on the mattress. It is still lumpy. The room is still hot. But tomorrow is Sunday, and Sunday is yours. Sunday morning in a tenement is the only time the building is truly quiet. The factory whistles are silent. The street traffic is minimal. The only sound is the church bells tolling in the distance, a slow, mournful sound that rolls over the rooftops. You sleep until 8 a.m. This feels like a decadent, almost sinful amount of rest. When you wake, the sun is actually hitting the top of the air shaft, sending a weak, diffused light into the room. You do not rush to the sink. You make coffee slowly. You drink it sitting down. Sunday is the day for maintenance, not of the machines, but of yourself. You heat water for a real wash. You scrub the factory grit from your pores. You shave. You put on your Sunday best, a clean shirt, a vest, a hat that has been brushed free of dust. You step out. The neighbourhood is transformed. The pushcarts are gone. The shops are closed. The people on the street are dressed up. You walk to the park. It is a small square of green, hemmed in by iron fences, but it has trees. You find a bench. You sit. You watch the world go by. A family in their finest clothes, walking to church. A group of men arguing politics on the corner. A couple courting, walking arm in arm with careful propriety. This is the day you remember why you are here. You're not just a cog. You are a citizen. You're part of something larger. But the underlying anxiety never fully disappears. You see a man sleeping on a bench, his clothes tattered, his shoes worn through. You know his story. He lost his job. He missed rent. He was evicted. He is the ghost of your future. The system has no safety net. If you fall, you hit the pavement. You look away. You focus on the trees. Later you visit a friend. He lives in a different tenement, a railroad flat. It is worse than yours. No air shaft. The inner rooms are pitch black day and night. You sit in his kitchen drinking tea. You talk about the union. The union is a dangerous word. If the foreman hears you say it, you're fired. But on Sundays, in whispered conversations, it is the only hope you have. They're talking about an 8-hour day, your friend says. You laugh. 8 hours? It sounds like a fairy tale. It's happening, he insists, in Chicago, in Pittsburgh. You want to believe him, but you know the power of the owners. You know the police work for them. You know the politicians work for them. Be careful, you say. He nods. Always. You walk home in the twilight. The dread of Monday begins to settle in your stomach, a cold, heavy stone. The freedom of Sunday is an illusion. It is just a pause button on the machine. You climb the stairs. The smell of the building wraps around you again. You take off your Sunday clothes. You hang them carefully on the nail. You lie down. The whistle will blow in 8 hours. If the factory owns your days and the landlord owns your nights, who owns your health? The answer in 1880 is simple. The patent medicine man. You wake up on Monday with a cough. Not the usual dust cough, but something deeper. Your chest feels tight. Your head throbs. You cannot afford a doctor. A doctor costs $2 just to walk in the door. That is 2 days' wages. So on your way to work, you stop at the druggist. The window is filled with colourful bottles, amber and cobalt blue, with labels that promise miracles. Dr. Kilmer's swamp root, Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup, Kickapoo Indian sagwa. You buy a bottle of lung restorer, it costs 50 cents. It claims to cure consumption, bronchitis, asthma, and general weakness. You take a swig right there on the street. It tastes of alcohol, molasses, and something, and bitter. What you do not know, because there are no labels, no FDA, no regulations, is that the medicine is 40% grain alcohol laced with opium, or perhaps morphine, or cocaine. The effect is immediate. The pain in your chest dulls. The headache vanishes behind a warm, fuzzy curtain. You feel lighter. You feel strong. You walk into the factory feeling invincible. The noise doesn't bother you. The dust doesn't bother you. You work with a strange, detached energy. This is the hidden economy of the Gilded Age. The workforce is running on narcotics. The soothing syrup given to crying babies is morphine. The tonic for female complaints is alcohol. The cure for fatigue is cocaine. It is a system of chemical compliance. It keeps you working when your body is screaming to stop. It keeps you docile when you should be angry. By noon, the effect wears off. The crash is brutal. The headache returns, sharper than before. Your hands shake. You crave another dose. You sneak a sip from the bottle in your pocket. The foreman sees you. He doesn't say anything. He knows. He probably has a bottle of his own in his office. As long as the machine keeps running, no one cares what fuel you're burning, but there is a cost. You see the older workers, the ones who have been taking the cure for years. They are hollow-eyed, their skin grey. They tremble in the mornings until they get their dose. You tell yourself you are different. You only need it for the cough. You will stop when you feel better. But the cough doesn't go away. The air in the factory ensures that. You are caught in a loop. The work makes you sick. The medicine keeps you working. The medicine makes you sick. You work to buy the medicine. It is a perfect circle of exploitation. The tenement isn't just a place where you sleep. It is also, for many, a place where they work. This is the piecework system, the shadow factory that operates inside the home. You come home on Tuesday to find your room transformed. The table is covered in fabric scraps. Your sister, her neighbour, and 2 children from the floor below are sitting in a circle sewing. They are making artificial flowers, petal by petal, wire by wire. The air is thick with the smell of glue and fabric dye. The dye is green, Shields green. It is vibrant, beautiful, and made with arsenic. The children's fingers are stained green. They rub their eyes, leaving green streaks on their faces. How many, you ask? 3 gross, your sister says. That is 432 flowers. For this they will be paid perhaps 60 cents. Split 4 ways. You sit down to help. You're tired from the factory, but 60 cents is 60 cents. You pick up a wire. You dip a petal in glue. You twist. The work is meticulous and numbing. Your eyes blur. The light from the kerosene lamp is weak. You squint. This is the sweating system. Manufacturers send materials to the tenements to avoid factory laws. There are no inspectors here. No limits on hours. No age requirements. If a 5-year-old can hold a petal, they can work. You look at the boy across the table. He is 7. He should be in school, but school is not free, and his family needs the 15 cents he will earn tonight. He coughs, a dry rasping sound. You think about the green dye on his hands. You think about the lung restorer in your pocket. You work until midnight. The pile of flowers grows. They're beautiful, bright green and velvety. They will adorn the hats of ladies walking on 5th Avenue. Those ladies will never know that their fashion is made in a room that smells of cabbage and arsenic, by children with green fingers and hacking coughs. When the last flower is done, you pack them into a box. Your sister counts them. She smiles. It is a tired smile, but genuine. "Good night," she says to the neighbours. They leave, their footsteps heavy in the hallway. You clean up the scraps. You wipe the table. You see a smudge of green dust on the wood. You scrub it, but it stains. You lie down. Your fingers ache in a new way, different from the loom ache. You close your eyes. You see green flowers spinning in the darkness. Winter in the tenement arrives not as a season, but as a siege. It starts in late November. The windows, which were your only relief in August, become your enemies. The glass is thin, single-paned, and loose in the frames. The wind off the East River hits the brick wall, swirls down the air shaft, and pushes through every crack like pressurized water. You wake up, and your breath is visible, a white puff of condensation that hangs in the air above your pillow. The temperature inside the room is 40 degrees. Getting out of bed requires a level of willpower that feels superhuman. You're warm under the quilt, wrapped in the body heat of your family. Stepping onto the floor is like stepping onto a sheet of ice. You rush to the stove. It is cold, a black iron block that has leached all the heat during the night. You have to rebuild the fire, but now there is new calculation. Coal. In summer, coal is for cooking. In winter, coal is for survival. And coal is expensive. A bucket costs 10 cents. A bag costs a quarter. A ton costs $6, an impossible sum. So you buy it by the pail from the local coal seller, paying the poor man's price, which is effectively double the market rate. You measure out the nuggets carefully. 3 chunks, maybe 4, just enough to boil the water and take the edge off the freezing air. You hoard the rest. The fire catches. You huddle around it, rubbing your hands. The front of your body warms up, but your back remains freezing. This is the thermal reality of the tenement winter. You are never warm all over. You are rotisserie cooked, rotating yourself to keep the cold from settling into your marrow. Dressing is a frantic layering process. Long underwear, shirt, wool vest, coat. You put everything on. You look bulky, stiff. You head for the stairs. The hallway is colder than your room. The front door has been left open by a careless neighbour, and the stairwell has acted as a chimney, sucking the freezing air all the way to the roof. The water pipe on the second floor has burst. It happened sometime in the night. A jagged icicle hangs from the joint, and the stairs below are coated in a slick, treacherous sheet of ice. This is common. The landlord does not insulate the pipes. It is cheaper to fix them when they break than to prevent the breaking. You navigate the ice carefully, gripping the banister. If you slip and break a leg, you lose your job. If you lose your job, you freeze. The stakes of walking downstairs have never been higher. You step outside. The city is grey and hard. The mud is frozen into ruts that twist your ankles. The wind cuts through your layers as if they weren't there. But you keep moving. The factory will be warm. That is the one mercy. The steam pipes that suffocated you in July will save you. In January, you walk with your head down, chin buried in your collar. You pass a horse that has fallen on the ice. It is struggling to stand, its breath coming in panicked snorts. People walk around it. There is no time to stop. Winter strips away the last illusions of community. Everyone is focused inward, conserving heat, conserving energy. You reach the factory. You step inside. The warmth hits you, thick and humid. For a moment it feels like heaven. Then you smell the oil, the unwashed bodies, the stale air. You take off your coat. You take your station. The machine is cold to the touch. You start to work. Your fingers are stiff, clumsy. You fumble a knot. The foreman glares. You rub your hands together. You force the blood to flow. Winter has just begun. You have 4 months of this. You count the coal in your mind. You count the pennies. You pray for an early spring. Illness in winter is a question of economics. You hear the cough start in the apartment below you. It is a child. At first it is just a sniffle, then a bark, then a deep rattling wheeze that shakes the floorboards. It is pneumonia, or perhaps diphtheria. In the crowded, unventilated tenement, it doesn't really matter which one it is. It only matters who it takes. You see the mother in the hallway. She looks terrified. She's holding a rag to the child's face. "Is he warm?" you ask. "We have no coal," she whispers. You go back to your room. You look at your bucket. You have half a pail left. It is supposed to last until Friday. You take 3 large chunks. You wrap them in a newspaper. You bring them downstairs. This is the tenement economy. It is not charity. It is insurance. You help her today because next week it might be you coughing in the dark. She takes the coal. She cries. You don't know what to say, so you just nod and go back upstairs. That night, you sleep in your coat. You can hear the fire crackling below. You hope it is enough. The next morning, the hallway, the is quiet. The coughing has stopped. You don't ask. You just walk to work. At the factory, the air is dry. The heat from the steam pipes dries out your mucous membranes, leaving you vulnerable. Flu spreads through the lines like wildfire. One man starts sneezing at 8 a.m. By noon, 3 others are looking pale. By 4 p.m., the man has collapsed. He falls onto his loom. The shuttle hits him in the shoulder. The foreman stops the machine. They drag him to the side. They give him water. He is burning up. "Go home," the foreman says. "I can work," the man gasps. "I need the day." Go home. It is not kindness. A sick worker slows the line. A dead worker stops it. The man stumbles out. You watch him go. You know he will likely lose his job. If he's not back tomorrow, someone else will be in his spot. You pull your scarf up over your nose. You try to breathe shallowly. Germ theory is a new idea, debated in universities by men with microscopes. Here, germs are not theoretical. They are a physical presence, heavy in the air. You finish your shift, you walk home. The door to the downstairs apartment is closed. There is a strip of black crepe pinned to the wood. You stop, you stare at it. The coal wasn't enough. You walk up the stairs. Your legs feel heavy. You go into your room. You light the stove. You sit close to the fire. You are alive. You are healthy. You are employed. You feel a profound, hollow guilt. Spring in the tenement is not marked by blooming flowers or singing birds. It is marked by the thaw. The thaw is messy. The frozen drifts of garbage in the gutters begin to melt, releasing 3 months of suspended odours all at once. The streets turn into rivers of black sludge. The air shaft, which was an icebox, becomes a humidity trap again. But the most significant sign of spring is moving day. In New York City, leases traditionally expire on May 1st. This is not a law. It is a custom that has hardened into an iron rule. On this single day, thousands of families pack their belongings and move simultaneously. Why move? Maybe the rent went up. Maybe the landlord refused to fix the stove. Maybe you heard about a building 3 blocks over that has 2 sinks per floor. You have decided to move. Your building has been sold to a new owner who wants to raise the rent by 50 cents. 50 cents is 2 days of food. You cannot stay. So you pack. Packing a tenement life takes about an hour. You have the trunk, you have the bedding, you have the cooking pots, you have the chair that wobbles. You carry it all down the 4 flights of stairs. The hallway is chaos. Everyone is moving. People are going up, people are going down. Mattresses get stuck on the landings. Arguments break out. Watch the wall. You're blocking the way. My china? Outside, the street is a sea of carts. Every wagon, dray and handcart in the city has been hired. Prices for moving have tripled. If you can't afford a cart, you carry your life. On your back, you found a cart. It is shared with 2 other families. Your mattress is wedged between a dresser and a crate of chickens. You walk behind the cart. The horse looks tired. It is chaos. Furniture is piled on the sidewalks. Children are sitting on sofas in the middle of the street, guarding lamps and mirrors. It looks like a refugee crisis. In a way, it is. It is the annual migration of the poor, searching for a slightly better deal. You arrive at the new building. It looks exactly like the old building. Red brick, fire escape on the front, narrow door. You carry your trunk up. This time it is the 3rd floor. 3 flights, 60 steps, an improvement. You open the door. The room is the same size. The window looks into a different air shaft, but the view is the same brick wall. The stove is rusted in the same places, but the rent is 50 cents cheaper. You unpack. You set the table. You make the bed. You look around. It smells of fresh whitewash. The landlord has painted over the last tenant's grime. It feels clean. For now. You sit by the window. You hear a voice from across the air shaft. New here? You look out. A woman is leaning on the sill. She looks tired but friendly. Just moved in, you say. Don't drink the water from the tap on Tuesdays, she says. It comes out brown. Thanks, you say. You have moved. You have saved 50 cents. You have gained a new warning about the water. This is progress. Summer returns. The cycle resets. But this year there is a new variable, the heat wave. A heat wave in a tenement is a meteorological disaster. When the temperature hits 95 degrees for 3 days straight, the brick buildings stop being homes and start being ovens. They absorb the solar radiation all day and release it all night. The interior temperature can stay above 90 degrees at 3 a.m. Sleep becomes impossible. On the second night you give up. You cannot lie on the mattress. The wool sheet sticks to your skin. The air is so heavy you feel like you're breathing water. You take your pillow. You walk to the window. You climb out onto the fire escape. The fire escape is the summer bedroom of the Lower East Side. It is an iron balcony, rusted and precarious, bolted to the side of the building. It is meant for emergencies. This is an emergency. You lie down on the metal grate. It is hard, uncomfortable, and smells of rust. But there is a breeze, a faint, hot breeze moving off the river. You're not alone. Look up. Look down. Every fire escape is full. Men, women, children, whole families are sleeping on the iron platforms. It looks like a vertical dormitory suspended over the street. People are sleeping on the roofs too. You can see the silhouettes against the stars. They have hauled mattresses up the narrow stairs to catch the wind. It is a strange communal intimacy. You are sleeping 5 feet above your neighbour's head. You can hear him snoring. You can hear a baby crying. 2 floors down, you can hear a couple arguing in whispers on the next landing. You close your eyes. The metal presses into your back. You're afraid of rolling over in your sleep and falling through the railing. It happens. Every summer, someone falls. But the fear is worth it for the air. Below you, the street is still awake. People are sitting on the stoops, fanning themselves with newspapers. Kids are splashing in the water from a hydrant someone has cracked open. Hot enough for you? Someone calls out. Too hot, you murmur. You drift off to the sound of the city. You wake up with the sun in your eyes and a grid pattern impressed into your cheek. You are stiff. You are thirsty. You are tired. But you survived the night. You climb back through the window. You make coffee. You get dressed. The whistle blows. The machine is waiting. And the machine loves the heat. It makes the oil run smoother. Politics in the tenement is not about ideology. It is about ice. It is July, and the election season is ramping up. Not the presidential election. That feels distant, a matter for men in silk hats in Washington. This is the ward election. This matters. You're walking home from work when a man stops you. He's wearing a bowler hat and a plaid suit that is slightly too loud for a Tuesday. He has a cigar clamped between his teeth. You registered, son? He asks. You nod. You're a citizen. You vote. Good man, he says. He hands you a ticket. Picnic on Sunday. Free beer. Free chowder. Courtesy of Alderman O'Reilly. You take the ticket. You know Alderman O'Reilly. He owns the saloon on the corner. He also owns the construction company that paves the streets. He is corrupt, efficient, and useful. This is the machine politics of Tammany Hall. It is a system of patronage that trades votes for survival. And hey, the man says, lowering his voice, you need coal this winter? You let me know. O'Reilly takes care of his own. You nod again. You know exactly what this means. If you vote the right way, if you show up at the rallies, if you bring your friends, the coal will arrive. If you get into trouble with the police, it will be smoothed over. If you lose your job, O'Reilly might know a guy who needs a hod carrier. It is transactional democracy. You go to the picnic. It is crowded and loud. The chowder is salty, but it has real clams in it. The beer flows freely. O'Reilly gives a speech. He talks about the working man. He talks about the greedy corporations. He sweats. He shouts. You cheer. Not because you believe him, but because he gave you lunch. But there is a darker side. You see a man being escorted out by 2 large volunteers. He tried to ask a question about the sanitation budget. He has a bloody nose. You look away. You drink your beer. This is the lesson of the ward. Power protects those who serve it. Later that week you see the reformers. They are women from uptown, dressed in sensible clothes, carrying clipboards. They're walking through the tenement, taking notes. They look horrified. They point at the garbage in the hall. They point at the children working. They ask you questions. Do you have a window in your bedroom? How many people sleep here? Do you know about the laws of hygiene? You answer politely. Yes, ma'am. 3, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They leave. They will write a report. They will give a speech. They will try to pass a law. You appreciate their effort, but they didn't bring chowder. And they won't bring coal in December. You vote for O'Reilly. If the factory breaks your body and the tenement breaks your spirit, the pawnbroker is the one who puts a price tag on the pieces. It is a Wednesday in October. The work has been slow. The slack season has arrived in the textile industry. The owner has cut shifts. You worked 3 days last week. You do the math. You are short. Rent is due. You look around the room. What do you own? The bed? No, you need that. The stove? It belongs to the landlord. Your eyes land on your Sunday suit. It hangs on the nail, brush clean. It is wool. It is good quality. You bought it 3 years ago when you had a flush month. You take it down. It feels heavy in your hands. It smells of camphor and pride. You fold it carefully. You wrap it in brown paper. You walk out. The pawn shop is 3 blocks away. It is recognizable by the 3 gold balls hanging over the door, the symbol of the Lombard bankers, the patron saints of debt. Inside, it is quiet. The air smells of dust and old metal. The walls are lined with the debris of 1,000 lives. Fiddles, watches, wedding rings, tools, coats, boots. You place the package on the counter. The broker opens it. He doesn't look at you. He feels the fabric. He checks the seams. He holds it up to the light to look for moth holes. $2, he says. It cost me $8, you say. $2, he repeats. He starts to rewrap it. Okay, you say. 2. He writes out a ticket. He hands you 2 bills. They are soft and dirty. You have 6 months, he says. Interest is 3% a month. You take the ticket. You put it in your pocket, careful not to crumple it. This ticket is the only proof that you still own a suit. You walk out. You feel lighter, but also colder. You have solved the problem of the rent. But now you have a new problem. What will you wear to church? What will you wear if you need to find a new job? What will you wear if you want to feel like a human being instead of a worker? You walk past the saloon. You don't go in. You can't afford a nickel for beer. You're saving every penny to get the suit back. This is the cycle of debt. You borrow against your future to pay for your present. And the future gets more expensive every day. You see a woman walking into the pawn shop as you leave. She's carrying a pair of brass candlesticks. You recognize her. She lives on the 2nd floor. Her husband died last week. You nod to her. She nods back. It is a silent fraternity of the pawned. We trade our dignity for days. Thanksgiving in 1880 is not a national holiday of football and gluttony. It is a day of prayer proclaimed by the president, and for you, a day off without pay. But you celebrate. You have to. The human spirit requires milestones. or the days blur into a grey smear of labour. Your sister has been saving for weeks. She's hidden pennies in a cracked teacup. She has bartered sewing work for extra flour. There is no turkey. Turkeys are for the uptown tables, but there is a goose. It is small, scrawny, and was likely acquired under questionable circumstances by a cousin who works on the docks. You pluck it. The feathers float in the air, sticking to the damp walls. You roast it in the iron stove. The smell is incredible. It fills the hallway, taunting the neighbours. Guests arrive. Your cousin, your friend from the railroad flat. A neighbour whose husband is away, which means in prison or at sea. The room is crowded. There are not enough chairs, so people sit on the trunk, on the bed, on the floor. You carve the goose. The slices are thin. Everyone gets a piece. There are potatoes roasted in the fat. There is bread. There is a pitcher of beer. You eat. You talk. The conversation is loud, overlapping. Did you hear about the fire on Hester Street? O'Reilly says the rent control bill is dead. My brother got a job in a brewery, free beer on Fridays. For 3 hours, the tenement feels like a home. The heat from the stove, usually a curse, is welcome against the November chill. The laughter drowns out the street noise. But then the goose is gone. The bones are picked clean. The beer is finished. The guests leave. The room feels suddenly empty and cold. You clean up. You save the goose grease. It will be used for cooking for the next month, or perhaps as a salve for chapped hands, or in a pinch, burned for light. You lie in bed. You're full, but you feel a strange sadness. Holidays are dangerous. They remind you of what life could be like if you didn't have to fight for every inch of it. They show you the gap between survival and living. You pull the blanket up. Tomorrow is Friday. The factory will be running. The goose is a memory. You close your eyes. You dream of a table that is always full. Christmas in the tenement is not silent, and it is certainly not white. It is grey, loud, and smells of wet wool and pine. You buy a tree. It is not a whole tree. It is the top 3 feet of a pine tree, cut off and sold for a nickel by a vendor who probably stole the trees from a park upstate. You wedge it into a bucket of sand in the corner. You decorate it. Not with glass ornaments, those are for the rich. You use strings of popcorn if you haven't eaten it. You use strips of coloured paper. You use bits of tinfoil scavenged from cigarette packs. It looks pathetic. It looks beautiful. Gifts are practical. A new pair of socks. A scarf. An orange. An orange in December is a miracle. It is a ball of sunshine that has travelled from Florida or California. You peel it slowly. The smell of citrus explodes in the room, cutting through the coal smoke. You eat it slice by slice, savouring the juice. You go to midnight mass. The church is the only building in the neighbourhood grander than the factory. It is warm, lit by hundreds of candles. The music soars into the vaulted ceiling. You kneel. You pray. You look around at the faces of your neighbours. They look different in the candlelight, softer, hopeful. But outside, the reality waits. On your way home, you see a family evicted. Their furniture is on the sidewalk, covered in snow. A mattress, a cradle, a table with a half-eaten meal still on it. It is Christmas Eve. The landlord doesn't care. The law doesn't care. You stop. You look at them. You know you should keep walking. You can't afford to get involved. But you reach into your pocket. You have a quarter. It was meant for tobacco. You hand it to the father. He looks at you. He doesn't say thank you. He just nods, a sharp, jerky motion. You walk away fast. You feel angry. You feel helpless. You go back to your room. The tree is there, brave and green in the corner. You sit by the stove. You think about the baby Jesus born in a stable. You think at least a stable has animals for warmth. This is the theology of the poor. God is good, but the landlord is powerful. January brings the fear of fire. It is a statistical inevitability. You have a building made of dry timber filled with 400 people, all burning coal in iron stoves and lighting their rooms with kerosene lamps. You have laundry drying near open flames. You have exhausted people falling asleep with pipes in their mouths. The tenement is a tinderbox waiting for a spark. You wake up at 2 a.m. You don't know why. The room is freezing, the fire having died down hours ago. But there is a smell, it isn't the usual coal smoke. It is sharper, wood smoke, scorched fabric. You sit up, you listen. Clang, clang, clang. The sound is distant, but getting louder. Fire wagons, the steam pumpers drawn by galloping horses, their hooves striking sparks on the granite cobblestones. You rush to the window. You scrape the frost off the pane with your fingernail. Across the air shaft you see a glow. It is orange, flickering, unnatural. It is not the sunrise. It is a reflection. Fire! Someone screams in the hallway. The building wakes up instantly. It is not a gradual waking. It is an explosion of movement. Doors slam, feet pound on the stairs. You grab your coat. You grab your boots. You do not grab your trunk. You do not grab the china. You grab your sister's arm. Go, you say. You head for the fire escape. In summer, the fire escape was a bedroom. In winter, it is a treacherous, icy skeleton bolted to the brick. The iron steps are coated in a layer of sleet. The railing is so cold, it burns your skin. You climb out. The wind hits you like a physical blow. You are 4 stories up, standing on a slippery grate, looking down into the dark abyss of the backyard. You look to the left. The building next door is burning. Flames are licking out of a 3rd-floor window, blackening the brick. Smoke pours upward, a thick grey column against the night sky. You watch. You cannot look away. The firemen arrive. They are heroes of the ward, men with leather helmets and handlebar moustaches. They connect the hoses to the hydrant. The steam pumper chugs, a rhythmic chuff, chuff, chuff building pressure. A jet of water arcs into the air. It hits the fire with a hiss. Steam billows out, white and ghost-like. You stand on the fire escape, shivering violently. You're safe. The wind is blowing the other way. Your building will not catch, not tonight. But you watch the people on the fire escape next door. They're climbing down, clutching bundles, clutching babies. They are slipping on the ice. One man falls. You hear the thud as he hits the yard below. You wince. The fire is put out. The orange glow fades to a sullen, smoky grey. The excitement ends. Now comes the cold reality. You are standing outside in your nightclothes in January. You climb back through the window. The room feels incredibly safe, but also incredibly fragile. You light the lamp. You check the stove. You make sure the damper is closed. You move the drying shirts further away. You lie back down. You can still smell the smoke. It has seeped through the cracks in the window frame. You think about the family next door. They have lost everything. Their bedding, their clothes, their stove. By morning they will be destitute. This is the lottery of the tenement. One tipped lamp, one stray spark, and your life is ash. You pull the quilt up to your chin. You're cold, but you're lucky. You close your eyes. The smell of smoke lingers in your nose, a reminder that safety is just a temporary condition. February is the month of endurance. The excitement of the holidays is gone. The adrenaline of the fire has faded. Now there is only the grey sludge of winter. The city feels frozen in time. The sky is a perpetual sheet of steel wool. The sun is a rumour. Your body is tired. The lung restorer no longer works. You have built up a tolerance. You cough constantly now. It is just part of your breathing rhythm. Inhale, cough, exhale. Work at the factory has slowed. Orders are down. The owner cut shifts again. You are now working 4 days a week. This sounds like relief, but it is terror. 4 days means $4 less. $4 is the difference between eating meat and eating bread. You start to ration. You skip lunch. You drink hot water instead of coffee. You wear your coat inside to save coal. You become an expert in the economics of scarcity. You know exactly how many slices are in a loaf of bread, 14 if you cut them thin. You know how long a candle lasts 3 hours. You know how to patch a boot with cardboard. You spend your days off walking. You walk to the docks to see if there is day labour. You walk to the rail yards. You walk just to keep moving, because sitting still in a cold room makes you think too much. One day you find a job shoveling snow for the city. It pays $1 a day. It is brutal work. The snow is heavy, wet, and mixed with horse manure and coal ash. Your back screams. Your hands blister inside your gloves. But you do it. You shovel alongside men who were doctors in the old country, men who were farmers, men who were soldiers. You don't talk. You just shovel. At the end of the day, you get a silver dollar. It feels like a gold medal. You buy a piece of beef. You buy a bag of coal. You walk home feeling like a king. But the victory is short-lived. The next day, the snow melts. The job is gone. You go back to the factory. The machine is waiting. It doesn't care that you shoveled snow. It doesn't care that you are hungry. It just wants its thread. You tie the knot. You watch the shuttle. You realize that this is your life. There is no great escape coming. There is no sudden windfall. There is only the slow, steady grind of survival. And strangely, there is a peace in accepting that. You stop fighting the reality. You just live in it. You are a tenement dweller. You are a factory worker. You are a survivor. And that, in 1881, is an achievement. March arrives with a change in the wind. It is no longer the biting polar wind of February. It is damp, gusty, and smells faintly of wet earth. But March also brings the strike. It starts as a whisper on the factory floor. The spinners are walking out. The weavers are organising. You hear it in the saloon. You hear it on the stoop. The grievances are simple. An 8-hour day, a 10-cent raise, safety guards on the gears. You are torn. You agree with the demands. You have seen the mangled hands. You have felt the exhaustion. But you also know the risks. If you strike, you don't get paid. If you strike, the owner will hire scabs, desperate men from the boat who will work for half your wage. If you strike, the police will come. One morning, the whistle blows, but the machines don't start. A man stands on a crate in the centre of the floor. "Brothers," he shouts. "Sisters, enough is enough." The crowd murmurs. Some cheer. Some look terrified. "Walk out," he yells, and they do. It is a strange feeling, leaving the factory at 9 a.m. It feels illegal. It feels exhilarating. You walk out with them. You are part of a river of people flowing into the street. There are banners. There are songs. 8 hours for work. 8 hours for rest. 8 hours for what we will. You march. You feel powerful. For the first time, you're not a cog. You're a force. But power attracts power. The police are waiting at the end of the block. They are mounted on horses. They carry clubs. The clash is inevitable. A stone is thrown. A horse rears. A club swings. Chaos. You run. You duck into an alley. You hear shouting, screaming, the thud of wood on bone. You make it home. You are shaking. The strike lasts 3 days. For 3 days you don't eat meat. You burn the last of your coal. You sit in the cold room and listen to the rumours. They brought in the Pinkertons. They're hiring Italians. The union leader was arrested. On the 4th day the whistle blows. You go back. The strike is broken. The owner won. The wages are the same, the hours are the same, but something has changed. You look at the man next to you. He nods. You nod back. You lost the battle. But you realise there is an army, and that thought keeps you warm through the last days of winter. April brings the letter. Mail in the tenement is not a daily occurrence. It is a rare, almost mystical event that interrupts the rhythm of survival. The postman is a uniformed anomaly in the neighbourhood, a man who walks with a purpose that has nothing to do with buying, selling, or evicting. He stops at your building, he checks a bundle, he climbs the stairs, he knocks on your door, you answer, he hands you an envelope. It is thin, stained with travel, and smells faintly of sea salt and a different kind of smoke. Peat smoke, perhaps, or wood smoke. The stamps are foreign. The handwriting is cramped and economized, using every inch of the paper. It is from the old country. You sit at the table. You do not open it immediately. You look at it. This envelope has travelled further than you ever will again. It has crossed an ocean. It has ridden on trains. It has survived the hold of a ship. You open it carefully, preserving the paper. The news is never good. Happy people do not spend money on international postage to say they are doing fine. They write to tell you who has died, who is married, who is coming next. You read. The potato crop was poor. Uncle Seamus passed in his sleep. The rent was raised. It is a catalogue of the misery you left behind. It is a reminder of why you are here, sleeping in an air shaft, breathing cotton dust, eating stale bread. Because there you would be hungry. Here you're just tired. There is a request at the end. Send money. It is always there. The remittance. The American letter is supposed to contain a bank draft. You look at your savings. The tin cup on the shelf. You have managed to save $3 since the strike ended. It was meant for a new pair of boots. Your current soles are worn through to the cardboard patch. You sigh. You take the money. You go to the bank. Not a real bank with marble pillars. Those are for the Vanderbilts. You go to the immigrant bank, usually a desk in the back of a saloon or a grocer's shop. The banker speaks your language. He takes your $3. He writes a draft. He takes a fee. You put the draft in an envelope. You lick the stamp. You drop it in the box. You have just bought survival for someone 3,000 miles away. You have traded your boots for their bread. It is a transaction of blood. You walk home. Your feet feel the cobblestones through the thin leather. You feel a strange mixture of resentment and pride. You are the success story. You are the rich American relative. You pass a mirror in a shop window. You see a tired man in dirty clothes. But in the village back home, you are a king. You climb the stairs. You go back to the room. The letter lies on the table, a physical link to a life that is fading like a dream. You fold it. You put it in the trunk with the others. You light the stove. You make tea. The past is a heavy thing to carry, but the present is heavier. May 1st returns. Moving day. The anniversary of your arrival in this particular box. You have survived a year. You sit by the window. The airshaft is loud with the chaos of other people leaving. Trunks banging on stairs. Arguments over deposits, the sound of a city. Reshuffling its deck. You're not moving this year. You cannot afford the cart. You cannot afford the fee. And honestly, you cannot afford the energy. You stay. You look around the room. It has changed in 12 months. The walls are darker, stained with soot and grease. The floor is more worn. The furniture is more scarred, but it is yours. You have added things. A lithograph of a landscape on the wall, a green valley you will never visit, a rug braided from rags, a second chair that almost matches the first. You have subtracted things too. The lung restorer is gone. You stopped taking it when you realized it made your hand shake. The cough is still there, but it is manageable. You have learned the rhythm. You know which butcher gives the best cuts for the lowest price. You know which saloon has the best free lunch. You know how to fix a leaky pipe with a rag and some tar. You're a professional tenement dweller. You hear a knock on the door. It is a young man. He looks terrified. He's holding a hat in his hands. He speaks in broken English. Is this the building? You look at him. You see yourself a year ago. The fear, the hope, the exhaustion. Yes, you say. Third floor back is empty. Mrs. O'Malley moved to Brooklyn. He nods. Thank you. Wait, you say. He stops. Don't drink the water on Tuesdays, you tell him, and buy your coal in July. He smiles. It is a weak smile, but it is real. Thank you, he says again. He walks up the stairs. You listen to his footsteps. Step, creak, step, creak. You turn back to the window. The sun is setting, casting a long golden light down the brick canyon. For a moment the grime looks almost beautiful. You have passed the knowledge on. You have initiated another member into the tribe. You're not just surviving anymore, you are enduring. And in 1881, in the Lower East Side of New York City, endurance is the highest form of victory. The sun sets on the Lower East Side. It is a slow, hazy decline, the light filtering through the smoke of 1,000 chimneys, turning the brick facades a deep bruised purple. The noise of the street begins to change texture. The sharp shouts of commerce fade, replaced by the low communal hum of the evening. You're sitting on the fire escape. The iron grate is still warm from the day, radiating heat against your legs. You have a cup of tea in your hand. It is weak, but it is hot. Below you, the city is a living thing. You watch the lamplighter moving down the street, touching his pole to the gas lamps. Pop hiss, pop hiss. One by one, pools of yellow light appear on the cobblestones, pushing back the shadows. You look at the windows across the way. You see a mother rocking a baby. You see a man reading a newspaper by a lamp. You see a group of men playing cards. You are part of this. You are a cell in a massive breathing organism. You think back on the year, the heat of August, the cold of February, the hunger, the fatigue, the fear. It has been hard, harder than you ever imagined, but you're still here. You're not the person who arrived a year ago. That person was softer, more hopeful, more naive. You are harder now. Your hands are calloused. Your lungs are scarred. Your eyes are sharper. But you're also stronger. You know how to survive. You know how to find warmth in a cold room. You know how to find community in a crowded hall. You know how to find dignity in a life that tries to strip it away. You finish your tea. You set the cup down on the windowsill. You stand up. You stretch. Your back cracks. You look up at the sky. Above the smoke, above the brick, you can see a few stars. They are faint, struggling against the glow of the gaslights, but they are there. You breathe in. The air smells of coal and horses in the river. It smells of the city. You turn and climb back through the window. You close the sash. You pull the shade. The room is quiet. The fire in the stove is banked. For the night, your family is sleeping. You lie down on the mattress. You pull the quilt up. You close your eyes. Tomorrow the whistle will blow. Tomorrow the machine will start again. Tomorrow you will fight for water, for space, for breath. But tonight, you rest. Tonight, The system sleeps, and so do you. You drift off, the sounds of the building wrapping around you like a heavy, familiar blanket. You are safe. You are home, and you are ready for whatever comes next.